Well, hello everyone. We're back here again, Real Deal Around Town. I'm back today to talk about a story that's been kind of hanging out there for a couple of years, more than 2 years now, actually. And much of it is taken care of, and some of it is still lingering. Um, and the picture behind me, that's the Townsend Police Department. I stole it from Google, the drive-by thing. But that is the which way should I go? That way. That's Townsend Police Department. That's the building. So this is about a Townsend cop. So I'm gonna be figured I'd show the station. Now, the officer that I'm gonna talk about, if you notice by the title here, it says retired Townsend cop fights for pension. I know a whole bunch of people out there are watching this video saying, "What the hell is she talking about?" And some people know. Excuse me. I need my coffee, I think. So I was pretty shocked when I first heard about it. I came upon it by accident. I don't remember how. But I was going to do this story a couple months ago, but uh, if you follow me, you know that I got all wrapped up with certain selectmen that resigned in horror. That would be Chaz, and then Joe quit, and then we had all this stuff just hanging there, and they still haven't picked up all the pieces yet. But I was really busy, and I had busy other things in my life, so I really didn't have time to put everything I wanted into this. But I was still following it because it's been hanging around Air District Court. Yes, this is an Air District Court. Keep up with this guy's got a lot of court dates everywhere. He's only got this one thing going on that I know of. If he's got more stuff hanging, I haven't found it yet, but we shall find out. So I want to tell you that this guy ended up ineligible for his pension. He's 60 some odd years old, and they're paying him right now, but that could come to a screeching halt as early as this Thursday. He's got a court date on Thursday, but I think it's just motions. I don't know that anything will be determined on Thursday. There's probably gonna, a gazillion, another year's worth of court dates probably. Although I don't know, they've got a motion for judgment, so I don't know. Courts, they never do what I expect them to do, and they got a world of their own, as you probably know. So let me I'm going to bring up the Townsend Police Department's press release from June of 2022. Let's see if I can make that happen here. Oh, this looks good. How's that? Okay, so I can read the fine print. It says, Townsend Police Department charges retired officer with accosting woman and impersonating a police officer. Yep. Imagine that. A retired cop getting charged with impersonating a cop. Okay. So Police Chief James Sartell, who's still our chief today, reports that the Townsend Police Department has arrested and charged a retired police officer with accosting a woman at a business in town and then impersonating a police officer in an attempt to prevent the woman from reporting the incident. Tad, I'm going to call him by his short name. Everybody always called him Tad. Tad Rochette, age 60. He was 60 in 2022. Tad Rochette, age 60, of Townsend, was arrested on a warrant and charged with the following crimes: witness intimidation, accosting and annoying, impersonating a police officer, and sexual conduct for a fee. On Wednesday, June 15th, the Townsend Police Department, and again, remind everyone this is 2022. This happened a while ago. Townsend Police Department received a report from an employee of a business in town that Rochette allegedly made numerous statements that were sexually inappropriate and offered the woman cash in exchange for sexual acts during a conversation inside the business. Rochette also claimed to be a Townsend police officer and threatened the woman with legal ramifications if she reported the incident and his behavior. Immediately upon receiving the report, Townsend police began an investigation, which led to investigators obtaining an arrest warrant for Rochette from Air District Court. Rochette was taken into was taken into custody on Friday, June 17th, and he was ordered held on $1,000 cash bail, pending arraignment Tuesday in Air District Court. For those of you that didn't know that this happened, yep, it did. I'm sure you're shocked. A lot of people didn't know what happened. It was all over the place. But there you have that. I'm going to remove this thing. Go back to just me. Now, everybody wants to know what happened. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to kind of leave you in suspense if you don't know. I mean, he's fighting for his pension. He wasn't found guilty of all those charges, though. Kind of fascinating. I'm not going to get into the entire case. I think it, I'm sure many of you would like to hear it, but I'm not going to give the whole rundown because, there's victims involved, and my understanding is there are victims out there that are still quite upset about this whole thing, and I'm not going to, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to be responsible for victimizing people. It's bad enough that this is still going on, but so I'm going to bring up what's going on now. Or actually, no, I'm going to bring up some of the paperwork that led us to where Mr. Rochette is today. More sharing screens here. See if I can find the screen. Oh, yeah. This is not always my favorite thing. That's not it. Scan number 5. That's it. I have to apologize that my scanner is, it's got something wrong with the rollers. I'm divorced from a copier repair person, so I'm screwed. I'll have to take it apart myself and fix it one day. Anyway, here's a letter from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Middlesex District Attorney, who sent a letter to John Parsons, Executive Director of PURAC, which is the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission, and they handle retirement. Oh, did I pull this up? No. Yes, you have it. Okay. Sorry, I got lost on whether or not I had shared this with you or not. Okay, so this letter from the DA's office going to the PURAC to notify, in accordance with the law, that Mr. Rochette was convicted of something. Actually, not yet. Oh, yes, it does. I'm sorry. Oh, I've been looking at these papers all afternoon and I'm all confused now. Okay, so on August 15th, 2022, this office notified you that the above defendant, whom I believe to be a retired Townsend police officer, was arraigned in Lowell District Court. Now, they moved his case to Lowell, I believe, because he was a cop down here in Air. So which that happens often, not with every cop, but when a police officer gets in legal trouble, they tend to move them out of their immediate court area for their, so that they'll get a fair trial. So anyway, too bad they didn't do that for everybody. But anyway, the defendant was charged with intimidating a witness, juror, police, court official, accosting, annoying person of the opposite sex, impersonating a police officer, and participating in sexual conduct for a fee. Please be advised that during a bench trial on April of 2023, the above defendant was found not guilty of intimidating a witness, accosting a person of the opposite sex and participating in sexual conduct for a fee. Regarding the charge of impersonating a police officer, the above defendant was found guilty and subsequently sentenced to 1 year of probation. If you have any questions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he was found not guilty of all the charges except impersonating a police officer. And he went to a bench trial. I was kind of, when I first was looking at this, I was a little bit surprised that he took it to trial, but I guess that was, when I found out the results, I assumed that, well, maybe, how did he end up stuck with this charge? Some of the other charges might have actually been better for him. I know that sounds weird, but it's where I'm going with his pension. He might have been better off with some of the other charges. I don't know. Wow. I don't have it to put up on the screen. I mean, I have it. I just didn't scan it in. So there were also additional charges that were added. And I'm going to read a police report. This is a supplemental narrative for Sergeant George Reedy. So I think everybody in the Townsend Police Department was involved with arresting Tad for this charge, which is kind of interesting. I'm going to just digress a little bit that, we hear about cops, the blue line and all this stuff and how they all got each other's back and they protect each other. This doesn't sound like that at all. This sounds like they were all out to get him. It doesn't seem like there was any holding back on the charges here. I'm amazed. I'm amazed, but maybe I shouldn't be. Apparently, I don't know what Tad's relationship was with the police department. And of course, when I look at some of the names, I know that I'm old, so I call them all kids, but they're young. These are new officers in general. Generally speaking, they've probably been there half a dozen years, some of them, but they didn't know Tad. Is what I think George Reedy. Yeah, George Reedy's been there for a long time. He knew Tad. But it didn't seem like anybody was covering his butt. They were not holding back on charges. So I'm going to read a narrative from he didn't do this report until August, but it was from the same day that Tad was arrested. It was on June, I'm going to read this. On June 16th, 2022, I assisted Officer Tucker Silvestri to serve an arrest warrant on Tad Rochette. After serving the warrant, I spoke with Rochette and explained that his license to carry had expired in February. So this was 4 months after his license to carry had expired. And I guess maybe when you're a cop, you don't pay attention to these things. But he was retired, but here we go with new charges. I asked Rochette if he had any firearms that we needed to collect from him, and he said he only has a rifle, AR-15 style. Nice. I asked him to call home and have his wife assist me with collecting the rifle. Rochette complied, and I spoke with his wife on the phone, giving her instructions to get the rifle and explained that I would be able to collect it. At about 2:30, I arrived at Rochette's house, and I'm not going to say his address, and spoke with his wife. She invited me in, gave me his rifle and 2 30-pound feeding devices. I also collected several boxes of 12-gauge shotgun shells and 3 Townsend police badges. Remember that. Townsend, 3. After confirming Rochette's permits expired, collecting the items and stated at his home address, blah, blah, blah. So then he added these charges. Possession of large capacity rifle, or, of course, I guess this is in the pending category. This is before they finalize the charges. I have something here that has the actual charges. Hold the phone. Oh, there it is. Nope, that's the other one. Oh. I had it. Okay. That's the witness. See, I have too many papers now. It's here. Oh, it's right behind the paper I'm reading from. What were his final charges? Large capacity, firearm large capacity. Yes. He didn't charge him with, oh, 4 charges. They charged him with everything. Possession of a large capacity rifle, assault weapon, unlicensed possession, and the feeding device, large capacity, and the ammunition, the 12 gauge. Yeah, the two 30 round AR-15 style feeding devices. You can't have any of this stuff if you don't have a license. So they took all that and they charged him with that. Now, I'm not going to go deep into that, to everything. Like, I didn't scan everything in. I went on to the court thing. They did everything in Lowell. The weapons charges were all dismissed in early this year. I think it was January. I had it. I'm not going to pull it up again, but it was dismissed. It took until early this year to get that all dismissed, but it takes a while to get things through the court, and so they dropped those charges. So the only criminal charge that he ended up with was the impersonating a police officer, of all things. And that seems like a pretty benign charge. And I don't even know if it's a felony or a misdemeanor. But he, if you're a retired cop and you get charged with impersonating a police officer, you're going to carry that around with you. That's one of those things that people would say, "You what? Are you shitting me? How does that even happen?" And you don't have to. You can come up with any barroom story you want to explain that charge, but this is going to change his life. This could very well screw it up, and it is screwing it up, and that's why we're here today, and that's why he's still dealing with this in court. I'm going to read this. I'm going to go back to the paperwork, and where'd I put it now? That's it. I'm going to scroll some more. So then, let's see, that letter, the original letter I sent you earlier that I read from the DA to PIRAC was in January of this year. The DA's office notified the retirement people that he was charged and found guilty of a charge, which is required. All these police ethics things. That's where we're getting into trouble. So now, Middlesex County Retirement System, who runs the retirement for everybody that's employed within the county. So they sent a letter to Tad. Whoops, I didn't want his address showing, but too late. Order to show cause. The Middlesex County Retirement Board has been advised by the Middlesex District Attorney of the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission of your conviction on April 13th, 2023. The Lowell District Court in the Lowell District Court on the offense of impersonating a police officer in violation of Mass General Law 268, Section 33, see attached. Under the Massachusetts Public Employee Retirement Law, this applies to any employee that's retires. A criminal conviction which bears a legal or factual link to a public employee's current or former position invokes the mandatory pension forfeiture provision of Mass General Law, Chapter 32, Section 15, 4. Such forfeiture is mandatory and occurs by operation of law and is an automatic legal consequence of conviction of certain offenses. Documents provided by the Middlesex DA indicate that the offense included the use of your Town of Townsend police badge and ID. The Middlesex County Retirement Board will review this matter in April of 2024. They did, and they're standing by their claim that he is going to, or as far as they're concerned, no more pension. He's not entitled to a pension because he was convicted for impersonating a police officer, which is directly connected with his employment, his former employment as a Townsend police officer. And he used his very old credentials. In fact, although he wasn't charged, when he got arrested for the weapons, they picked up 3 additional patches. So he was holding on to them. I guess, I don't know. I guess you can keep them. I don't know. I don't know what the policy is on that, but he doesn't have them anymore. I'm sure he doesn't have the AR-15 anymore either. That would be interesting. I don't even want to know. So when they picked him up, we got pictures. I got pictures of badges. I got all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to bore you with every single detail. This is not a murder case. This is just this case. There's a case. There's a legal case that this led to. If you notice on the screen, it says Tad Rochette versus the Middlesex County Retirement System. So Tad is suing the state, or he's suing the retirement system in order to keep his retirement. In amongst all this paper, I've got a whole bunch of paper here on my desk. But in amongst all these papers, he's still getting paid. Somewhere in here, I don't know if I'd call it an injunction, but he's still getting paid pending the end of this mess. I don't believe he'll have to pay back anything that they've paid him. Excuse me, but they're going to end it. If he loses this lawsuit, he's going to lose his pension. And he's submitted all kinds of documentation claiming all kinds of conspiracies against him and everybody else for that matter. And that he's the last of a long line of victims. He's a victim here. And although most of the charges were dismissed and this is the only one sitting here, he's going to have to convince a judge that he should get his pension. And it should be interesting to find out how this turns out. He did submit all kinds of case law. But let me read this. We're just going to read this. Tad has requested the court's review. This is actually, let me break in again. The case is Tad versus the Middlesex County Retirement System. So Tad's the plaintiff. The Middlesex County Retirement System is the defendant. This is a civil case. Okay. And in this case, the paper that's up here is the defendant's motion for a judgment, which is the Middlesex County Retirement System is asking the court for the judgment to dismiss his claim that his retirement's being wrongfully terminated. So the county retirement system is saying, as a result of his conviction on the impersonating of a police officer, and because it's related to his former position as a police officer for the town of Townsend, that they're asking that his pleadings be denied and that the judgment for the pleadings for the Middlesex County be allowed. Middlesex County, the defendant states that the decision of June 20th, 2024 to forfeit the plaintiff's retirement allowance is supported by substantial evidence and is not based on error of law. And that's when June 20th is when the Middlesex County Retirement Board determined that they made the decision that his situation means he can't get his pension. In support of the motion, the defendant relies on the defendant's answer, the administrative blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's the basic request. And then this is the somewhat lengthy memorandum of law, the defendant's memorandum of law in support of the motion. I wish I went to law school. I could explain this a lot better. After a bench trial, Lowell District Court convicted Mr. Rochette of impersonating a police officer. After show cause hearing, the board of the Middlesex County Retirement determined that Mr. Rochette's criminal offense, which involved the use of his police badge and an expired Townsend police ID, was a violation of laws applicable to his former position as a Townsend police officer under the pension forfeiture law. Mr. Rochette has argued that the provisions of General Law Chapter 32 should not apply, as the badge was a commemorative badge memorializing the death of a deceased fellow police officer, and that forfeiture of his pension is an excessive fine imposed in violation of the Eighth Amendment of the United States Constitution. Maybe. For the reasons set forth below, the board respectfully requests that the Honorable Court affirm the board's decision. The underlying facts in this case are drawn from the official records of the Townsend Police Department, the Lowell District Court, and the Middlesex County Retirement System, each of which presents sufficient indicia of reliability. The facts are set forth in the certified decision of the defendant, filed and served in answer to the plaintiff's complaint, and can be summarized as follows. Now, you notice if you're following what's the screen, I'm not reading all the case law. I'm just skipping over that. I'm just going to try to stay with the gist of this article. The plaintiff is 62. He retired in April of 2019. And I also want to say the date in the right-hand corner upside down is, this was just filed a couple weeks ago. So this is current. The plaintiff, currently age 62, retired in April of 2019 after serving 34 years as a police officer. This gives all his finances. I'm going to skip over some of this because it's depending on your perspective, it's a lot of money, but it's really not, because this gives what's in his retirement allowance that it's got to last the rest of his life. So, and it's also noted that it needs to be noted for all of us too, that he's got an ex-spouse who is entitled to half of it, or at least divided at whatever point it's, I don't know, it might be in here, but his ex-wife is entitled to some of it. So it's not just his life that's going to be screwed up, it's hers. Townsend police were dispatched. Oh, this is the, we're going to hear the story now. I know you've been waiting for this through this whole thing. On June 15th, 2022, Townsend police were dispatched to a local convenience store in response to a complaint regarding the plaintiff's interaction with a female store employee. The employee reported the interaction to be sexual in nature and threatening. Mr. Rochette displayed semi-naked photos from his cell phone and a police department, Townsend police badge and ID. In addition to being charged with impersonating a police officer, the plaintiff was charged with witness intimidation, accosting, annoying another person, and offering sexual conduct for a fee. After a bench trial on April 3rd, 2023, after the plaintiff was convicted of the offense of impersonating a police officer. And as it states, not guilty on the other stuff. The court imposed a sentence of 1 year probation and ordered to stay away from the victim and a place of employment and to continue with mental health therapy and to turn over the plaintiff's badge, blah, blah, blah. And my understanding is everything else has gone according to plan. Now, Middlesex County is saying the right of judicial review is to forfeit a retirement allowance as provided by General Law 32, which requires the district court to review such action and decision, hear any and all evidence, and determine whether such action is justified. So I guess they're just doing their job, I guess. Similar to judicial review, state administrative appeals, blah, blah, blah. This is case law. The statute at issue. At all relevant times, the statute underlying the board's decision provided as follows. Whoever falsely assumes or pretends to be a police officer and acts as such shall be punished of a fine not more than $400 or by imprisonment for not more than 1 year. The court has held the statute is directed at the false assumption of a specific position or authority. The maximum sentence classifies the crime as a misdemeanor. That's good. Nevertheless, it should be clear that Mr. Rochette was charged with and convicted of a serious crime. The decision to forfeit Mr. Rochette's pension was a correct matter of law. Pension forfeiture is automatic. It's an automatic legal consequence of a retirement system member's conviction of a crime involving a violation of law applicable to the member's office or position. Looking to the facts of each case for a direct link. The direct link between there's a lot of case law. They provided all kinds of case law to support that this is not the last time. This is not the first time this has come up. And even to provide that it's not limited to people who are still active in their employment who lose their retirement. It goes beyond. It does include people who have left their employment. The documents provided by the board are reliable and inescapable evidence of a factual link between Mr. Rochette's crime of impersonating a police officer and his former position of a Townsend police officer and mandate forfeiture of his pension. I'm going to read a little bit from the statement. I'm reading this and I'm just thinking, people that are, I was really shocked when I heard this. I mean, I wasn't shocked hearing some of it. I mean, it just seemed that I think Tad was shocked when he found out that he could lose his pension. I don't think most people even think about it. Usually you hear about, well, particularly cops lately, cops getting arrested and charged and gone to jail even. And you assume that they're going to lose their pension and all that stuff, and they probably do. Although some cops are allowed to retire. There's a whole host of state troopers that have it's a parade going into prison. And some people don't, they get suspended sentences or what have you, but they're all active cops when it all occurred. And this is a little bit different. So I'm sure he's mortified. And I'm sure anybody that's an employee, this doesn't just apply to police officers. This applies to, you could be any job in a municipality, in a county, state employee, that if you do commit a crime that's affiliated in any way with your employment, you can lose everything. Tad then stated he was a cop. The victim's name's redacted. It said to Tad, "There is no way that you're a cop," because she couldn't believe that a cop would actually do this. Tad then showed the victim a Townsend Police Department badge, assisted a few more customers before saying again, "There is no way that you're a cop." Ted then showed police ID. I showed my police ID and asked if it looked like mine. Stated it did look like my police ID, but older. I have also been a member of the Townsend Fire. Oh, this is the statement from the officer that arrested Tad. Some of this, I'm like, this isn't Tad. This is the officer that arrested. So it's just confusing. The officer that arrested him, this is his statement, not. Yeah, this is from the Townsend Police. I'm like, what am I reading? This is from the Townsend Police report when they arrested him. That the officer was giving his opinion of, like, this doesn't look right. And he didn't know Tad because he was a newbie. He's one of the rookies. Modica, I think, was the guy that actually made this arrest. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. To me, he's a brand new kid, but he's probably been there for 5 or 6 years. But anyway, the police department card, the police ID utilized by Rochette expired in 2016 and contained his picture, name, and Commonwealth of Mass seal and all that kind of stuff. So, but basically, I mean, he was clearly they're submitting all the evidence of what happened. So basically, Tad went into this place, this business, and really accosted this employee, or he's alleged to have. He was found not guilty, or the cases were dropped. Yes, found not guilty, I guess. And Yeah, so I can't say he did this. I can say that he was accused of this. But in the whole thing, he used his ID as a police officer, and that's what's going to hang him. Even though it probably seemed very minor. He didn't get found. It's interesting. He didn't get found guilty of the things that he didn't get found guilty of witness intimidation, which is what he was doing with his badge. So interesting. I guess, well, each law has different elements, and if you don't pay attention, you can really get screwed up. Especially if your lawyer doesn't tell you. But that's a whole nother story. The Yeah, so again, I mean, there's always mountains of paperwork when things are going to court. But their attorney, or I should say, yeah, this attorney, the Middlesex County Retirement Board, is claiming through all this legalese and case law that that they're entitled to end his pension because of this conviction. And they're asking the court to support this. I think about this. It'd be interesting to see if Tad appeals. He probably should. Well, he is appealing. That's what this case is in district court. Okay, well, here's some interesting part. I didn't realize this was in here. I have the whole case here from 2013. This is not the first time. This is not the first time. The nature and circumstances of Mr. Rochette's offense. Mr. Rochette had been disciplined. If you're not asleep already, you should wake up. Mr. Rochette had been disciplined in 2013 while actively employed as a Townsend police officer for unacceptable conduct involving young female employees of a Dunkin' Donuts. Although having been retired and separated from the Townsend Police Department for more than 3 years at the time of his criminal offense in June of 2022, Mr. Rochette continued to have in his possession police photo identification, both of which he produced in his conversation with the female victim, which centered around secret sex clubs. Okay. Sometimes these things kind of roll together, but this is I do have heavily redacted is discipline from 2013, but it's all part of this case. I got a whole bunch of stuff here, and just in case somebody's out there saying she got this illegally, nope. Public records from the court itself. This is from the court. I have nothing from the town of Townsend. The town of Townsend participated in no way with me having any of this documentation. In fact, the press release from the police I just Googled it. That's what came up. And I said, okay. So the press release was still hanging there. I don't think you can find it if you go to the website. I think you have to Google Tad Rochette. So anyway, continue to have possession of all this stuff, and both of which, I guess the implication here, I mean, nobody can really use it. Maybe they're trying here that he was using his police credentials to get girls. I don't know. I'm just starting to see that maybe, I don't know what's going on with this guy. But after Mr. Rochette offered it's pretty frightening. You look at the 2013, it's like the same case, but he never got charged with anything, and he didn't even lose his job. This is amazing stuff. After Rochette offered the victim money, the victim reported feeling scared and threatened. The nature and circumstances of the offense clearly support the forfeiture of his pension. So what the retirement board is trying to express is that this is just not a simple flashing your badge and just trying to be cool. I'm a cop, and which unfortunately people do and don't realize that they're committing a crime. Even, I mean, he should have known he was committing a crime, but but I don't know. I don't know. But Mr. Rochette was convicted of impersonating a police officer. He was charged with, but found not guilty of all these other things. But um, there is no evidence that Rochette's crime was related to any other illegal activities. The aggregate maximum sentence that could have been opposed, he could have gone to jail for a year and fined at least 400, but they just put him on probation, which is common. The harm resulting from the crime, Mr. Rochette breached his duty not just to the victim, but to the town and to the public at large. Yeah, this does make Townsend and the cops look bad. And I'm sure that the Townsend Police Department is not really appreciative of me doing this video. But I'm sorry, but this is something that it's public. And I think people want to know. And I know over the years, it seems like it was 2022 was 49 years ago, and it was only 2.5 when he was arrested. But I know over the course of that year that people were really seeking information, trying to follow up on this case. And if you didn't have the case number, you couldn't get anything. And I did, it's over the years, I did get the case numbers and was able to put this thing back together. And I lost track of who the people were that were reaching out to me or that I was conversing with. I don't even remember how the conversations got started, but I kept my eye out for this, and I got the information. I think there's people out there that were trying to follow this and don't know what happened, and I didn't until I found that this lawsuit. Then everything became available because everything, his whole past, is in this case file. Because either Tad, and it's amazing that Tad is even presenting some of his own stuff that is shocking to me. I think it's him, and the retirement board's also including some his bad behavior over the course of his career, and it's frightening. Anyway, I'm not gonna. My interest is not in going up under every rock to find everything I can about this guy. His criminal case is over with, and hopefully he doesn't collect any more crimes. This case that I'm reporting on tonight is strictly his retirement, him trying to get his retirement back. So, or just keep it, I should say. So, I'm not necessarily going under every rock to find every bad word about Tad Rochette. A lot of people in Townsend know exactly who he is, and I'm certain people are watching this video. Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm babbling like I usually do, but it's my channel. I can do that. Okay, which is something true. This is very true. Ms. Rochette's criminal actions eroded the public's trust and confidence that a former law enforcement officer will not use an expired badge and identification card in pursuit of a sexual act. This sounds pretty creepy. The consequences, the ripple effect of Ms. Rochette's criminal conduct goes far beyond the harm inflicted on the victim. And when we think about sexual assault and the implications of attempted, when people, this victim called the cops, she did the right thing, but how many people out there, I mean, I know it, the people out there are intimidated. When somebody says they're a police officer and I'm going to retaliate against you if you don't comply with my request, regardless of what it is, whether it's a sexual act or anything else, with corruption of officials and we see the cops in such bad light today, getting arrested themselves more than, I think we hear more about cops being arrested than regular people. That, I mean, how many victims, I'm not necessarily implying that Rochette has other victims, but I'm thinking just people in general, that why this is so important. why they're saying how horrible this is. This isn't just, oh, we flashed his badge, give him a break, don't take his pension. But yet he was trying to intimidate this girl or woman, I don't know how old she was, to he was trying to intimidate her to comply with his request. And he was at her job. It wasn't like they met and he was just showing off and trying to put himself out as somebody he wasn't. He tried to intimidate this person. It's really scary. But he was only charged. All the others, the more serious charges were dropped, and they kept this one. At first, I was thinking that this is something that a plea deal, but it doesn't. I mean, it could have been. Maybe there was some discussion between his lawyer and the prosecutor to. But it said that there was a bench trial and he was found guilty. So I'm really confused. I don't know if there's a plea deal to accept not to accept impersonating a police officer as the lesser of the charges and go on with your life might have felt easy than the other ones. That's what I first thought when I came upon this, that okay, that's okay, a cop impersonating a police officer, how stupid. And or even to not consider somebody, uh, that's fine, that's kind of funny on its face just by itself. But but there's a lot more to this. But yet I don't he, I don't if there was some kind of an agreement to accept the guilty plea on this because he didn't think anything would happen. Oops. um and oops on his lawyer too, if that's how it went. But it was a plea. It wasn't. No, I don't have any documents here that say it was a plea deal. It says he was found guilty on a bench trial. So it doesn't. Backroom deals don't always get documented. But I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe somebody can put something in the comments and tell me whether that's a plea deal. Would not be mentioned as a plea deal if there was an agreement to take, because it doesn't say he pled guilty. It just says he was found guilty. He was found guilty in a bench trial. I don't know. Back to the paperwork. If Mr. Rochetta argues that his pension forfeiture is excessive based on the Eighth Amendment to the Constitution and as well as Article 26 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights. The Massachusetts Declaration of Rights is very similar. It's the section of the Massachusetts Constitution that talks about our all of our the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights that goes with the United States Constitution, the first 10 amendments, are mirrored somewhat in the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights. And they're often called up in papers like this. I used it one day in one of my board meetings with people to sound funny, to sound smart when I was arguing the First Amendment. I can't remember I think it's the 16th, Article 16. I have to look. I forgot now. That mirrors the First Amendment. But that's a sidebar. Sorry. But they're arguing that his argument that it's excessive, the punishment is excessive. They're saying it doesn't matter. And they give a whole bunch of case law. The Eighth Amendment refers to cruel and unusual punishment, that this punishment is disproportionate. It shocks the conscience and offends fundamental notions of human dignity. And losing your pension is a big deal. But at this point, we should all sit here and just not be sure. I'm not sure how this is going to go. Is whether it's excessive. Is taking his pension excessive? That's the question that is standing with this case. Is yes, I think it's been made very clear that the retirement board has, by law, the law is clear to that his case, he was found guilty of something that completely did involve him using the credentials of his previous employment from which he was retired, and goes against common sense, and using, taking what people think of police officers, just changing the whole dynamic, the trust in him, even though he's retired, that trust should still be there. And the scales of justice here, the court will have to decide on whether it's excessive. I think it's perfectly factual, it's the truth, it's clear he was found guilty of this, and the law is clear that he should not have his pension. But then, is it excessive? And the case law, there's all kind. I didn't go through all of it, and Tad has presented a number of arguments. I'm not pulling that up as well. Could be here all night. That to prove to us that, prove to the board too, that it's excessive. He did quite a. There was a number of really long argument on that he submitted to the board to try to get the board to not end his pension. But they weren't going to hear any of it. I don't think they really had a choice based on the limits to the authority of the board. The board can't just say, okay, never mind, we'll just break the law and give you your pension, because then that just makes them look corrupt. So I think that this case had no choice but to go to court for a judge to make a determination. Here I am sounding like I know the law. I don't. I'm not a lawyer. Never tried to be. But I think that it's going to be up to the judge. And there's probably, the judge might have to think about this one to see if whether or not it's excessive. Now they continue in their filing here. The legislature's intent now maintain misdemeanors as proper grounds for pension forfeiture. Okay. While Mr. Rochette's offense was not a crime against the public fisc, the seriousness of the first offense has to be considered. The fact that the crime was perpetrated by a former police officer in the same community in which he served makes it especially harmful. This is from quoting from the Police Commissioner of Boston versus the Civil Service Commission. As with claims under the Eighth Amendment, just to argue that I think this is arguing that police officers are held to a higher standard. Police officers must comport themselves in accordance with the laws that they are sworn to enforce, and behave in a manner that brings honor and respect for, rather than public distrust of law enforcement personnel. They're required to do more than refrain from indictable conduct. Police officers are not drafted into public service. Rather, they compete for their positions. In accepting employment by the public, they implicitly agree that they will not engage in conduct which calls into question their ability and fitness to perform their official responsibilities. I'm going to save this. That's oh boy, this is important. Outside of this case, there's all kinds of cases that are still out there with other police officers unrelated to this case, totally unrelated to this case. But some of those cases that we hear, especially, I'm gonna call up Karen Reed case. The story was with the state troopers involved with that case that are all out of work. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's just Proctor, I think, that's still out. The rest of them lost a couple days of vacation. But this is when we think about police officers, and we see, like I mentioned earlier, the troopers in particular that have been, just filing off to prison for crimes committed during their tenure as police officers. And this paragraph is, I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this paragraph. This is a quote. This quote from this case, but it's true. And I think we always think about, yes, police officers must be held to a higher standard, and that's why so often that they are treated more harshly. Um, I mean, sometimes we can quote cases where they got off or easy, and possibly because I mean, my assumption as a member of the public that when a cop gets off easy on something that could have sent them to jail, um, the security required to put a former police officer in prison is probably would maybe be more dangerous than your average person committing the same crime. So I'm assuming that that is often weighed, but as a general rule, I think as citizens we all expect police officers to be honest and do their job appropriately, even and then even when they're impersonating a police officer after they're retired, they should be held to that higher standard. You don't get a free pass because you were a cop and you don't have to follow the law anymore. um, I think that's it. Okay, so I'm done babbling, I think. Nope, that's something else. Where am I? Here we go. I'm coming back to you. um, so yeah, that's what Tad's going through. He's got court, Air District Court on Thursday. I think I think it's on Zoom again. I think it's in. I don't think it's in person. It could be. I'm gonna actually call the court to find out. I got a busy day Thursday. We have if you're following the purple bag story, that small claims. This is all civil court. All this stuff. The purple bag case that's got a time of 9 o'clock on Thursday in the magistrates area, I believe. And I think this will be, and that's in small claims. That's upstairs. So 10 o'clock is Tad, which will be, I think, with the judge in the downstairs courtroom. And I think this one's on Zoom. And then my day, at 11 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, is the Board of Selectmen's meeting. That's the one where they're going to talk about the deficit. That's going to be fun. But I just hope I hope that Tad's case is on Zoom so that I can at least come home, listen to it in my car until I get to the town hall. I don't know, but yeah, but this case with Tad, I'm trying to. I didn't want to completely put out every single piece of information on this on everything that's happened with him. Um, and I don't think most people want to really know every detail of everything that's happened with him. But I just wanted to put the story out there that because I know there are plenty of people who've been wondering whatever happened with his arrest. It was all over the newspapers. It was all over Facebook. That he had been arrested for these charges. And if you don't follow a case, you lose track of it because you can't just look it up by the name. You have to have the case number. And that's how things got lost. People just couldn't find out. You can't go to court and say, "What's up with Tad's case? What's the case number?" I don't know. We don't know either. And it's not that easy. So I got the case number, so I was able to bring the story back up to you and be able to give you what happened with the case. Because I know that people were really they really wanted to know in the past. And or a couple of years ago, 2022 into 2023, what's going on with this case? Have you heard anything? No. And then when the lawsuit, like I said, when his lawsuit to keep his pension came up, that's when I got all the case numbers and could look up everything and find out how all these cases got dropped, and except for that one, which could very well cost him. So we shall see. I'm not hopeful that this thing will be resolved on Thursday. I think if there is a decision made, it could just be a motion hearing. I'll know. I won't Thursday morning. I should know how they classify it, or I don't know. Sometime, hopefully Thursday. I'm sorry. Hopefully Thursday, I'll find out. I'll have an answer. I don't think it's going to get resolved on Thursday. I really don't. I think it will either be continued, or the judge will take it under advisement, or some whatever they do with that. Or if there is a determination, I'm sorry, I keep saying if Tad loses and the judge says, no, Tad, Mr. Rochette, you're losing your pension, we have to agree with the retirement board. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't appeal to the Court of Appeals, which will put us out another year, probably, at least. Well, maybe 6 months or more by the time that gets through that court. Appeals does work quicker than district court, but sometimes when you don't want it to. Because I don't think he would just accept, if he lost his case. I don't think he would just accept it and move on, because it's money for the rest of his life. I don't think he has another career. He doesn't have another pension out there. And I mean, a lot of people put money away in additional retirement accounts, even if they have a decent pension. But he's not going to sit back and just take it. I don't think, because I've got all the dollar. I mean, it's got all of his pay information I have here. I didn't want to put it up. I don't think anybody needs to know all the dollars, and it's not a lot. It's not a huge amount of money in today's economy. I mean, cops make a lot of money. We got some of our cops making $200,000 a year because of overtime and doing details. We got one he makes over 200 a year. He makes more than the chief. And but their base pay is not that big. If they don't do overtime, they don't make a whole bunch. But they do well. They're not in poverty, believe me. But to give up a pension when you're in your 60s, to have that rug taken out, it's not like he can go get another job. He's really in dire straits if he doesn't get this pension, which he's already receiving right now, from what I was able to gather. They want to stop it. It's being held pending the court outcome. So he's kind of in a position to keep the money coming in. He's going to have to keep a legal case going and get whatever continuances he can get. But he's paying a lawyer too. And I don't know that I think civil. So he can't get an appointed attorney. He's got to pay for this attorney. And he's got to hope that he wins. Because I'm not sure. Be interesting. I think he has to pay his lawyer anyway. I'll have to look that up. But I don't know. I will do another video Thursday, probably. I know I'll do another video Thursday, because I got the purple bag case, and I got this case, and I've got the selectmen's meeting all in the same day. So my afternoon will be in front of my computer doing another video. Maybe I'll even do that one live. No, I won't. No, I'll do it non-live. Maybe. Just so I can get it out to you. Okay, so this is all I have. And I'm gonna go now, and I will get back to everybody on Thursday. Maybe I'll do another video before then too, on something else. There's a lot of stuff going on around here, and I just wanted to get this one out. Okay, I will talk to you soon. See you on the next video. And if you're not a subscriber, can you hit subscribe and hit the notification bell? That way you'll know when the video's coming out. When the videos come out, you'll get notified. And then if you like this video, I need some engagement here. I need I want to make sure that more people are able to see all these videos. Okay, have a good one. See you on the next one.